Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you my diary entry for the weeks of March 30th through April 12th. Today is Saturday, April 12th. So, it's been a weird couple of weeks. I did get quite a bit done as far as reading and knitting goes. And yeah, so there's quite a bit to talk about. I have a few things to talk to you about as far as what I've read recently for the Orilium Magical Readathon. I've finished a project, so I get to talk to you about that in the Yarnie update section. I have worked on a couple of other projects, and I'm actually on vacation this coming week, so I do have some plans. And I'm trying to think about what knitting I'm going to be doing over my vacation. And so I'll talk to you a little bit about that as well. So let's get into it. I finished 4 books since I talked to you last. So, well, I should say 4 things, because the first 2 things I finished were manga. So I did finish up Dead Company with volumes 2 and 3. These are by Yoshiki Tonogai, published by Tokyo Pop, rated older teen. So I read volume 1 in March with the Monochrome Manga Club and enjoyed it. And so I definitely wanted to finish up the series while I had the first volume still fresh in my mind. Plus, since the series is only 3 volumes, I thought, why not? This story is about a guy who survived a battle royale type of situation. He's obviously got trauma, and it's taken him a little bit of time to want to get back into society. And so at the point of the story where we open, he is finally ready to start like reintegrating into society. And so he goes out to do a little bit of job hunting, and he gets scouted by a video game company. And he at first hesitates because he doesn't know anything about video games, but they really, really want him. And so he's like, you know what, let me give it a shot. And so he joins the company, and then he finds out why they wanted him so badly. So the first volume was really good. It does say on the back, because Tokyo Pop does say why it's rated certain ways, that the first volume had eye gouging. There wasn't no actual eye gouging on page, but you're led to believe that some eye gouging happened. Each of these volumes have different, what they call the age rating reasons on the back. So there's like violence, blood, gore, strangulation, guns, suicide. And the other one is violence, blood, and gore, and strangulation. I enjoyed this series overall. I will say that the end kind of took a twist that I thought was kind of weird. Definitely not how I wanted this series to end, but I can understand how it could go that way. And so it kind of put a damper on my feelings on this series, because I thought, oh, this is really interesting, and all the things that were happening up until the point where the ending started to come into play. It was just like, oh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And then, I don't know, I just feel kind of weird about how this story ended. But it made sense. I still enjoyed the series, so I think I ended up giving Volume 2 4 stars, and I ended up giving Volume 3 3.5 stars. So, still a really interesting series. I know this mangaka has a couple of other series that have caught my eye, and they all kind of have this mask type of thing going on their covers. And so I don't know if that means they're kind of interrelated, or if it's set with the same company maybe. But I'm really interested to find out, so I will be exploring more of this mangaka's work. So those are the first 2 things that I finished. I did finish them at the very beginning of April, so it didn't count for March Mystery Madness, but really, really good way to start off my reading month. And unfortunately, these won't count for the Orilium Magical Readathon, because none of the prompts can that I have for my classes fit either of those volumes. So those were kind of free reads. And then I finished The Chestnut Man, which is the first book that I finished for my classes for Orilium. This one was for the Conjuration class, which was locational summons. So it was for my random country generator. So I told you that I had picked Denmark of the random country generator selections that I had gotten. And so this was the only book that I had on my want to read shelf on Goodreads that was from an author from Denmark. And so this, I ended up borrowing a copy of the audiobook and the ebook from Hoopla through my library. It follows the investigation into a serial killer that leaves these chestnut like figurines at these murder scenes. And I believe the cover that I'm showing to you has a picture of the chestnut figurines that are kind of left. So this was obviously translated from Danish, and I thought the investigation was really good. This book clocked in at over 500 pages, and I will tell you that when I put it on my e-reader and like put in a little bit of space in between the lines, because the way that it came over on the electronic book copy, there's like no space in between the lines, and so I put in a little bit of space just to give me some like clear like reading. I find that when I have the sentences too close to each other, it gets a little tough for me, and so I wanted to space it out a little bit, and I did so, but that increased the number of pages to like 700. So it took a while for me to get through this. I was listening to it via audiobook, and then at night I would pick up where I left off on the audiobook and continue reading via ebook, and then the next day go back to the audiobook and vice versa. I thought the audiobook was done well. I enjoyed the narration. I will say that I feel like a lot of kind of things that were included in the story could have been taken out, and this book could have been shorter. There was kind of a lot of mentions of like romantic pairings between characters that aren't really like necessary to the story, at least in my opinion. And the story kind of opens up where you meet one of the detectives, and it goes straight into like a sex scene. And I will tell you that there are a couple of sex scenes in this book. The sex scenes are super short, not very detailed, and there was one sentence where it was like, after a few seconds he was done. And so that kind of made me chuckle. But they're not like super descriptive, and that's why I kind of think like they weren't really needed. Like at the point where the first one happened, you're just meeting this character. So it's like, why are we opening up to this type of scene? Do you know what I mean? And there were a couple different ones, not with that character, but with other characters we meet along the way. And while the first character that we do get introduced to in that type of a situation is a main character, I would say, throughout the story, the other ones were not main characters. And so all of that, I don't like it when there are scenes like that where it's not like center of the story, it has no like meaning. Like, why am I wanting to know this about this person? Do you know what I mean? And if that's the case, I would rather not have it, because to me it was page filling. So those pages could have been taken out. And I don't even know if that was even a page. Seriously, I think it was like a paragraph or so. But the case was very interesting. It kind of took you one way, and then you thought you were going in the right direction, and then it like introduces some other stuff, and so you're constantly guessing like who's the culprit, like, or who the next victim is going to be, because there are several throughout this book. And I thought that by the end of the story, it was wrapped up really nicely. We had a really good end to the investigation. The case was solved, and I think everything was very like logical in the way that the case had been wrapped up and figured out and all of that. Very, very good investigation. So the investigation portion and the stuff that did actually pertain to the case at hand, I really enjoyed. It just had a lot more fluff to it than I prefer. Now, there is a mini-series on Netflix that was adapted from this book. I did watch the trailer after I was done reading it, and I think I'm definitely going to check it out. It probably won't have the things that I had issues with this one, but it's always interesting to see, like, especially with translated works, how, like, the adaptations are done, and, you know, different areas of the world, because obviously it's going to be filmed in a different place than you're used to, for the most part. But yeah, it looks really interesting, so I think I am going to check it out. I ended up giving this one, I think, a 3.5, just because I feel like there was a lot of stuff that could have been taken out, a lot of things that didn't really pertain to the main focus of the story, and that I was just not interested in knowing about or hearing or anything like that. But I'll definitely be interested in reading more from this author in the future. I think the author's name was Søren Sveistrup, if I'm not mistaken. And I think when I went on to Goodreads, I saw that there was actually a sequel. So I think we might be following the investigation team that we're following on maybe another case. I don't know, because it hasn't been translated to English. But if that ever gets translated, I probably will also check it out. Really, really good start to my Orilium Magical Readathon, and so really glad to have read that and was introduced to it and finally got that one off my TBR. So that was the first thing I finished. Then I decided that I wanted to try to go back and pick up a book that I had put on kind of pause. I think it was last year. So I went back to Kingdom Keepers 3 because I had seen that my library had picked up a copy of the audiobook for this. And so I was like, oh, when I was reading this the first time, the audiobooks were not available. And I think what's happening is that they're having them re-narrated. And so now they have a few of them. And so I borrowed a copy and I picked up from where I had left off. And I think it was chapter 21 where I had stopped reading this book last year. I think it was last year anyway. In any case, this series by Ridley Pearson is about a group of kids who at the beginning of this series are all hired to be virtual kind of tour guides at the Disney parks. And these take place in the Florida parks, so the Disney World parks. And so they like digitize them and so you can see their holograms like walking around at the parks. But what this inadvertently does is give these kids the ability to cross over into their holographic selves when they're sleeping and like roam the parks at night. And then they uncover this like rebellion of Disney villains trying to, you know, wreak havoc like they do. And so in each of these books, you have these kids trying to stop the villains from doing what they're doing. And so in this one, they were in quite a few parks. I believe Epcot and Animal Kingdom, Magic Kingdom. And so it was really, really interesting, especially like if you know like the parks, you can kind of see like where they are. Now, I've only been to the Disney World parks twice, but I think it was enough for me where I can see like where they are, what rides they're in and things like that. Obviously you get characters that you're real familiar with if you watch some Disney stuff. Maleficent, Chernabog, who personally is like the bane of my existence because, short story, when I was in high school, we played Night on Bald Mountain, and I played the piccolo. And if you know Night on Bald Mountain, the piccolo part is very, very identifiable, and I call it my bane of existence. And so I do not care for Chernabog because he makes me remember having to play those runs and things. But in any case, Tonogai is in here. And I had originally put this one down last year because as these books go, they're obviously getting bigger and bigger, right? But the kids are also growing up. And with this one, the kids are kind of feeling their first like romantic tinglings. And it was just a lot of like pre-teen drama that at my age, I would prefer not to read. And so that's kind of why I put it down in the first place. I figured out after I picked it up again that I put it down at a kind of inopportune spot because right after where I stopped, things start getting really interesting. Like the whole like fight against these villains really starts kicking into gear. And that's what I love about these stories is the interactions between the kids and the villains and them being in the parks. But another part of this story is not only they're growing up, they're finding their first tinglings of romance, how that may be affecting the group as a whole, but the parents are starting to realize what's going on now. And there are parents who don't want their kids involved in things like that. And so there's a little bit of, defiance, I would say, between the kids and their parents. And so, yeah, there's kind of a lot of drama, like real life drama going on in the story. And if you know me, you know that I don't care for a lot of real life drama in the stories that I read. And so, yeah, while I did still enjoy this book, it wasn't my favorite of the ones that I've read so far. I would say probably the first one I read is still my favorite because you get introduced to like what the kids can do and everything is new and you're in the parks and like experiencing everything for the first time. And so I still think the first one is my favorite, but I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the next one. So enjoyed this one, gave it a 3.5. I will say though, the audiobook, it says it's unabridged, but I think it's abridged because there's no way that a 5.5 hour audiobook encompasses all of this. Plus, the chapters were only like a page or so, I would think. And by the time the book ended, there were like 60 chapters. And this book only has like 47 chapters. Plus, there was a part at the very end of the audiobook that is not in this book. So I was just like, where did that come from? So I don't know if the book was like redone, maybe reformatted, maybe revised a little bit, because I know there are several like cover editions that have changed since this one. I believe this is the original. But yeah, I thought that was really weird. And so I'm interested to see what happens with the next one. The next audiobook is an hour and a half longer, but I don't know how long the actual book is. I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere, but in any case, I will be continuing with this series. And this one did not count for any of my prompts either. It was just a way for me to reintroduce myself to this book and kind of get it off my paused shelf and move on possibly with the series. So enjoyed that 3.5. And I think that's everything that I've read so far over the last couple weeks. So I am working on 2 books right now. I am currently listening to Soldier, which is the 3rd book in the Talon series by Julie Kagawa. This series is about a girl. She and her brother are dragons, and there's a rebellion about people who kind of want to destroy the dragons or turn them into like, military type weapons, like weaponize them. And then there's another like faction of people who are trying to save the dragons and keep them protected and things like that. It's been a while since I've picked up an installment in this series, but since one of my prompts this year is to read a book with dragons in the story, I thought, you know what? let me go ahead and listen to it because I did need an audiobook and nothing like came to mind at the time. So I did start this one. Jumping into it after being away from this series was just a little bit confusing for me because I don't quite remember everybody's name. Like, I remember what happened in the story, so when they're like talking about those events, I remember that. But some of the characters I didn't remember. And so I'm like slowly kind of introducing myself to these characters. And so, yeah, I'm enjoying it. Something happened at the end of the second book that they're kind of like trying to process and figure out where to go from there, what the next step should be, and at the beginning of this one. So there are 5 books in this series. So I'm glad that I'm back to this series, and so hopefully I'll really enjoy this one. And so that's where I am with that. I think I'm only like 5 chapters in. I just started it at the end of my work week this week. And then as far as books go, I am reading Cheerleaders, the First Evil by R.L. Stine. So this is the first book in the Cheerleaders trilogy. It's one of the Fear Street trilogies. I am reading this one for Orilium for a like steal selection off somebody's TBR. I believe because Old School April is also happening during the month of April. Lots of people are reading R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike. So I had seen this one on, I don't know what their channel name is. I didn't actually write down the whole thing, so I will list it right here on the screen for you. But they had mentioned that they were going to possibly read this during the month, and so I thought, you know what, I've got that trilogy. Let me go ahead and pick it up. I'm pretty sure that I have read this one before, but I don't remember any of it. These are my copies from when I was a kid, and so yeah. I'm really looking forward to rereading this and seeing what I think now that I'm an adult. I'm about halfway done. I'm just taking it really slow just because my allergies have been really bad and I haven't been feeling very well because of it. And so, yeah, I read a little bit every night. So far it's interesting. Definitely has like that high school feel. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next in this one. But yes, I have several of my R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike books pulled out. I also have a pretty substantial list of things that I could read for still the TBR prompt because I'm probably going to have some extra like space to read during the month. So I definitely want to try to read more R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike because I missed my flashback February reads this year, which is something that I usually do in February where I read my R.L. Stine and Christopher Pike and stuff that I used to enjoy when I was a kid, but I didn't do that this year. So this is my opportunity to do that, and so I'm really glad to be revisiting the Cheerleader series by R.L. Stine. And so that's everything that I have read, everything that I'm currently reading up until this point. So far, only one of my classes out of 6 have been taken care of for the Orilium, but that is okay. I got my thickest book off of my TBR for sure. So everything else that I have like planned as far as classes goes shouldn't take me as long to read. But we'll see how this reading month goes. You know, when I'm on vacation, I have a tendency to not read as much, which kind of is counterproductive, but it is what it is. And so, yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave off with my reading. So that means that it's time for another Yarnie update. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about my finished object, and that is my mom's Duchess of Devonshire Shawl. So I did finish this up last night. So this is where I started, and then I had gone through this mini skein set from Seismic Yarn, which is the Pretty Princess Speckle Rainbow Mini Skein Collection. in their butter sock base. This is an 85% extra fine merino or superwash extra fine merino and 15% nylon, 87 yards, 20 grams, and there were 6 skeins, and they were all in these like rainbow speckles. So we start off up here with Material Girl, and then there's Men at Work, Not So Mellow Yellow, and then this one is Peridot, yeah, Blue Monday, and Purple Rain. And then it's got this applied border all the way across the bottom. This is too large for me to show it completely for you on screen, and because I just finished this last night, I have not blocked it yet. So it does look a little bit short, like a really thin shawl, but I have knit this before, so I do know that after I block it, it will stretch out a bit, and so I should get a bit more length in this, as well as this way. And so yeah, I'm not much of a shawl wearer, but let me see if I can like try to put this on for you. Yeah, mom has been liking to wear shawls lately, because she finds that it like helps keep her warm and stuff. But yeah, that's what we've got right now. I think it looks really nice. It definitely is like all like warm and toasty over here, which is something that I kind of don't want right now because it's been hot here lately and I'm just like not into it. I'm not somebody who enjoys the warmer weather, but let me see if I can do this way. But yes, really, really happy with this. I will say that the applied border took a really, really long time. And because it's like a lace kind of pattern, I did lose my place a couple times and have to rip back and fix some stuff. I want to say that there is probably a portion in here that is not correct. But, you know, that's kind of what makes things handmade, right? I can't really see anything right now, but there's got to be. I always have a mistake or two when I'm doing lace, but that's okay. But I'm glad to have this done. It looks awesome. My mom saw it last night. She's very happy with it, and so we're definitely going to be giving this a bath, stretching it out a bit, and then she will be able to have this for her. And so that is my only finished object so far. So that is my mom's Duchess of Devonshire. Duchess of Devonshire is a pattern by Kay Jones from the Bakery Bears podcast. And like I said, I have knit it before. Really, really enjoyable, pretty easy pattern. I would say the hardest part about that pattern is the applied border, because it is like a lace design, and it wasn't something that I could like remember the entire thing and just like be off on the way. I actually had to keep the instructions out and refer to it quite a bit. I forgot to show you my progress. So when I talked to you last about this, I had just started the applied border. So I was on like the second one over here. So this is where I started the applied border. So I was here the last time I talked to you, and I went the rest of the way across the shawl. I'm not even sure how many stitches there are, but yes, I did all of that over the last couple weeks, and yeah, super enjoyable. Like I said, the only real part where I had to like really put in a lot of concentration was the applied border, but very, very happy with that. And as far as the leftovers for this shawl, I think I am going to go ahead and make myself a pair of scrappy striped socks. I think I have a color that will coordinate, like a solid, that will coordinate with each one of these minis, so that I can get a pair of socks out of the leftovers. So that'll be really, really nice. So that is my only finished object for the week, but I've got 2 things that I have also been working on over the last couple of weeks. So the first whip that I've been working on is my daughter's Christmas socks in the Completo bag. So reminder, this is what the finished sock looks like. This is the first sock. So I was working away on the second sock this week during meetings and such. This was in Opal Joy in the color Lebensfreude, which I believe means zest for life. And I am almost finished with this sock. So I have done this much on the sock, and I am at the point now where I just need to put in the toe and I'll be done. But I couldn't put in the toe while I was in the meeting, so I just left it alone. And so yes, just needs the toe and this will be done. So this will be another finished object soon. Really enjoyed working with this. You know, the self patterning and self striping is always like interesting to work on, because it's like, oh, what's gonna happen next, or what's the next design gonna look like, and things like that. I really enjoyed it, and so I think there might be enough for me to get a pair of socks out of this for myself. I may have to put in coordinating heels and toes, but that should be fine. And so yeah, I'll have enough, or I should have enough to make myself a pair of socks after that. And then I do have one more work in progress to share with you. So I pulled out this one to work on. This is a Muppets bag from Utterly Adorable Knits. Really enjoyable. And inside here is another pair of socks. It's my little Muppet socks. So I have a gobstopper ball that looks like this. This is the Little Muppets colorway from Moose and You yarns. So this is colorway Little Muppets in their sturdy sock base, 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon. So I had to get this one because it's Little Muppets, and it's like the Muppets babies colors. And so I think I had pulled these out to work on when we had gone to Disney World in 2023. And so this is another one of my languishing whips. I had finished this sock, so I am using a contrast heel and toe. It looks like I also did the butterfly heel from Kay Jones in this one. But pretty much the same like recipe that I did for my daughter's socks that you just saw. 2x2 rib, about 45 stitches or so in the leg, butterfly heel, so many rows for the foot, and then my lightning toe, which is just a rounded toe where you don't see the like tab on the side. And so yes, so the striped is Little Muppets, and then for the coordinating heels and toes, I am working that out of this tiny little ball that I have left of, this is the onion sock yarn, which has like nettle in it. I really like this yarn, and so yeah, I just had this little bit left, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use it up. Really enjoyable. And so yeah, that's what I'm using for the heels and toes. So I was over here the last time I showed these to you, and so I did this much during the week this week. So I do want to try to get these done sooner rather than later. I have quite a few like languishing sock whips, but like I had mentioned a little while ago, one of the socks that I want to do next is with my mom's leftovers from her shawl, right? It's another sock project. So I want to make sure that I clear off some sock projects so that I don't just keep adding to my pile of unfinished socks. So that's where I am with that. So definitely going to be trying to work on these during the week. Daughter has chosen what socks that she would like next, and so I already know what her next like cast on is going to be. And then I think over the next couple weeks, I'm going to be working on a specific project. So let me share that with you and tell you why I am choosing this particular project to work on. Okay, so I have pulled out this project bag. So this is a towel project bag. I think we got these towels from Joann's one year, and my mom turned it into a project bag for me. In this bag is a project that has been languishing for several years. I don't even remember when the last time it was that I had shared this project, but this is my Slip Stravaganza by Stephen West. And so I had participated in my very first Stephen West knit along with this this Slip Stravaganza year, and I did not realize how large his shawls could get, and so I kind of wasn't prepared. But in any case, this is what my Slip Stravaganza looks like right now. So I obviously went for light grays and turquoises because you know me, those are my colors. And so I was doing really well with the knit along. I was almost on track. So you've got the like stripy honeycombs in here, and then you've got the peepholes, and then this kind of checkerboard kind of thing. And then you've got these like sections of color, right? And then you've got another kind of tic-tac-toe type design. And then I believe I am on the final section, which is the kind of chevrons at the bottom. I can't even like show you because it's all scrunched up on my cord. But I was at that point doing the chevrons, which I think is the last section for me, when I started seeing people start to block out their projects. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I never like connected in my mind as I was working on this how big this was getting. And then I started seeing people start to block theirs out, and they're like using queen size beds. And I'm like, I don't have that type of room to block out a shawl that big. So I tucked it away and never looked at it again, because I was like, what am I going to do if I can't block the shawl? I still can't block the shawl. I still don't have space like that to block this shawl unless I block it on my bed and sleep somewhere else. But yeah, there are so many stitches. You can see that, you know, it's all crinkled up over here on the cord. I mean, it looks so amazing. I think I really did a good job with the color palette. Definitely something that I would, even though I'm not much of a shawl wearer, go ahead and use to wrap myself in. But it is huge. It's huge. And I'm thinking this is going to be like a cape on me. It's so big. But in any case, the reason I'm pulling this out is because to do those scrappy socks with my mom's leftovers, I need this color to match with the Blue Monday. And I don't know if I'm going to be using this in the chevrons because I can't remember. And if I am, I don't know how much of it I'll need, so I don't want to go ahead and do the socks and then, you know, use whatever's left for the Slip Stravaganza, because what if I run out? So this is West Yorkshire Spinner's Signature 4-ply in the color, I believe, like blue raspberry or something like that. The ball band doesn't actually say, but I think it's blue raspberry. And so I need this for that project. My slip extravaganza was done with commercial yarns because it being my first Stephen West project, I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it, and I didn't want to, you know, spend a lot of money on it, especially if I wasn't going to enjoy it. So like I used these Filcolana Arouetta Classic in the color 202. This I believe is a Cascade Heritage. Yeah, in a like robin's egg color. I can't actually see the ball band in there, but I've got that. I've got some another like Filcolana Arouetta Classic in the colorway 811. So just like one step lighter than the 202. And then I have this one, which is another like Cascade Heritage. Again, I don't know what color it is. And then I had another Cascade Heritage, which kind of looked like this in the skein. So this is Cascade Heritage Wave. 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And this is in the colorway 515. So I actually had picked up another skein of this because I didn't think that I was going to have enough of this to finish off my shawl. So it was almost like right after I had received this that I come to the realization that I probably wasn't going to be able to block the shawl. And this shawl definitely needs blocking. Like, I know there are points at the bottom and they're going to need to be like stretched out a little bit so that the points don't curl and things like that. And also some of the sections in the middle of the shawl really do like benefit from blocking. So like this section here, for example, just stretching it out a little bit, and the honeycomb section also. But yeah, that's a lot of stitches. I don't even remember like how long it would take me to finish a row where I'm at. But my plan is to try to finish up this shawl so that will open up the rest of the yarn that I have in this bag, including this, for other projects. I barely used any of this color in my slip extravaganza. I like used it in this section right here. You can kind of see it. It's right there. But I think that was the only section that I used it in. I don't think I used it anywhere else, which kind of makes me think if I'm probably going to use it in this section, in the chevrons. So, yeah. So, this is a project that I definitely did not, like, see coming out of the whip pile this recently. But because I need the yarn for another project, I definitely want to make sure that I finish this up before I use this yarn. So that's why I'm going to bring this out. It really is like a huge cape. Like, I think on me this is going to come down pretty low, because already just sitting down the top part, and it's not done yet, the top part without stretching it out is all the way down to my lap. So yeah, I mean, I know I'm gonna love it when it's done. Where am I gonna block this? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And so that's kind of the story about my slip extravaganza. So while I put this away, let's go ahead and talk about the stash bust along or something that Stephen West is having currently. I did go ahead and make a purchase of a couple of patterns because he had his patterns on sale for like a week. So I did purchase some sweater patterns that I've been very interested in, including the Treasure Trove sweater, because if you remember back in November when I was sharing with you my yarn haul from the Fiber Festival that I'd gone to, I did pick up yarn for that sweater, but I did not actually have the pattern at that time. And so since the pattern was on sale, I went ahead and purchased a copy of that. I also picked up a couple of his other very heavily textured sweaters. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, I picked up a couple of other sweaters of his. One was like a brioche, and the other was like lots of different textures on it. And so, yeah, I picked up those, and so I'm glad to have them now, especially the Treasure Trove, because like I said, I did buy yarn to go ahead and make that. So now I'm all set to go ahead and do that whenever I feel the want to cast that on. And yeah, I picked up another couple patterns from another company, and I can't remember the name of that company. I think the name was Hunt, but they had a couple of dinosaur colorwork stocking patterns that I had been kind of turned to from watching the Slip Slip Sis Vlogmas videos. Chaley from Slip Slip Sis was doing one of those dinosaur stockings, and I was like, oh my gosh, that would be so amazing. And that designer was also having a sale, so I picked up 2 of her dinosaur stocking patterns, as well as a dinosaur sweater pattern that kind of matched one of the stockings. And so I'm really, really excited for those. So eventually you'll see those happen, I think. I'll probably save like the stockings for maybe Christmas in July, or like a Christmas or December project maybe. I think those might be fun during those times. And so yeah, picked up a few patterns lately. And that's pretty much all I have as far as the Yarnie update goes. Like I said, this week has been really weird. The temperatures have been hot. I've been very uncomfortable. Work has been weird. It seems I need to be making a decision as far as my occupation goes. My coworker has decided to retire. And so I kind of have to decide whether I want to stay in the type of position that I've been doing forever, or if I want to move into her position. And I'm kind of trying to like weigh all the pros and cons, you know, what's best for our customers versus what's best for myself. I don't know the answer to what's best for myself. I definitely know what the answer is as far as our customers goes, but I don't know like all of the details yet. So I'm kind of like waiting till one of the higher ups actually comes to talk to me about what my actual options are, or if they see another like path for me. I don't know, things just don't feel stable right now as far as my work goes, but you know, I'm on vacation for the next week, so I don't have to think about it, right? My allergies are like really, really bad right now. You probably noticed that there are a lot more cuts in this episode than there usually are, and that's because I have been coughing. I think we figured out that I'm allergic to tree pollen, because it seems like every time the wind blows and the tree that's right outside here starts to move is when my cough is the worst. And so earlier today I was okay, but over the last like recording this episode, it's been really bad. And so yeah, not too happy about that, but hopefully that will die down a little bit and I'll get back to normal. I think I would prefer sneezing to the coughing, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's another kind of new thing for me because I've never been allergic to anything until recently, like now. And it's just like, it's miserable. I feel miserable. I sound miserable. I've noticed that my voice has gotten progressively worse throughout this episode. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel okay besides the cough. The cough is just really, really bothering me. It's bothering me. It's irksome and I don't like it, but you know, what am I going to do? And so in any case, I think we're going to wrap it up here for now. So let me know down in the comments below what you've been reading, what you've been working on. Have you picked up any new patterns lately? Did you participate in the Stephen West sale, or have you participated in anybody else's like summer, like spring or summer sales? I would really love to know what you picked up, if you participated, or if you cast on anything new. Let me know that as well. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me some kind of dinosaur emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. That will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.